since this is Book Club Unhinged! I thought I got to do the
Welcome to another episode of Book Club Unhinged, where we talk about books and you shut up and listen. Introduce yourself. This is Allie. We're still new at this.
I'm Anya, and I'm still sick.
And I'm Aliana, and I'm not sick.
Alright, and today we are going to be finishing out the Cruel Prince book.
Yep.
So we are going from chapters 21 onwards, so if you have not read chapters 21, please kindly leave.
Get out of here. I don't want to see you.
Well, we can't see them. We're on a podcast, dummy, first of all. Second of all, you are welcome to stay. But spoilers ahead.
We welcome your presence, but I'm sorry if you listen to a podcast and haven't read the book first. I think less of you.
No, you're gonna make us lose listeners, homie.
Anya's just
I'm sorry.
Unhinged today.
Dude, every podcast we've recorded, I have been sick.
Mm-hmm.
It just lines up perfectly. I'm so tired of being sick. I had this down to 5 p.m. at 3 p.m. today.
Damn.
Like, I was drinking an excessive amount of water.
Anyway, chapter 21.
So, the first sentences I have highlighted here are High King's denying Balkan over and over as he died. Over poor, the names of the children who were forced to discover, each in turn, how the crown of fairy mattered more than their lives. And I remember reading that for the first time, and reading it again this time, I was like, oh, damn.
I mean, she's not wrong. She's spitting facts.
Mm-hmm.
June really just learned how to spit facts in this book, I think.
Well, I mean, it's probably her coping mechanism. Like, what else is she gonna do?
I just love that she's under a table for most of this chapter.
No.
Like, she's
You know,
just
I
crawling on
also-
her hands and knees underneath the table. And I feel like I try to take her seriously, but then I remember she's under a table. And I'm like, I don't know if I can take you seriously anymore.
I mean, she did witness a lot of bloodshed.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, if you're not going to get out, you may as well hide somewhere.
I just know what happens after this, and now I can't take her seriously.
That's true. That's a good point.
What was I gonna say? Oh, the fact that she, like, sees Maddox killing again. And, like, she knows that he's, like, a red cap, and, like, that's what he does. But to actually witness it, and to witness him be part of all of that murder, I think is really bringing back some trauma stuff for her.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Like, she is under here having, like, a trauma attack.
Yeah.
And I just made fun of her. Oh, no!
I'm love
sorry,
when
dude.
Carden says it's not safe for you here, especially if you go around stabbing everyone. And she's just like, the audacity.
The Lion, the Witch, and the audacity of this bitch.
Literally.
Well, also, like, okay, we're gonna get rid of the elephant in the room. Carden is drunk off of his ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's not safe for you here. It's like, are you even gonna remember what happened?
Probably not.
Like, you're trash, dude.
Dude, he's trashed. His entire family just died, and he is drunk off his ass, and that funniest.
I mean, you're supposed to get drunk off your ass after your entire family dies.
Like, everyone in this party is looking for him, and he is drunk under a table. Like,
the last place that anyone would look.
He is the last of the line of Mab and his family, and everyone is frantically searching for him because he's the only one that can put the crown on Balkan's head, and he is drunk under a table.
And nobody knows.
You know, what I find interesting, I want the point of view of this book, because everybody just seems to go along with whatever's happening, with the exception of Jude, because she's human. But all the Fae seem to just go along with, like, the murder and this and this. I want the perspective of that one Fae that's just like, okay, what is this? What is happening? This person's, like, I want to know if there's a Fae in this world that's questioning what's going on and is like,
no,
okay,
just decided to party again.
Yeah,
that's what's even
went
fascinating.
back to partying.
They're like, 6 people are dead. It's like, oh, well,
there's wine.
Let's drink some wine. Like, it'll be great.
I love how Carden, in his drunken stupor, is like, she's explaining to him why he needs to, like, take care of himself, and he's like, playing hide and seek under a table, crouching in the dirt, typical of your kind, far beneath my dignity. And I'm like,
and she's just like, shut up.
Oh,
I'm so drunk right now.
And then she just punches him. The chaos of this chapter gives me so much life. I'm sorry, but I love it.
It's completely chaotic, and I just, and then she's just telling him to crawl, and he's like, you first. It's like, you, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
I love...
Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to break out in laughter, but I have something I want to say for the next page on 253.
Go ahead and say it. Because I'm on 253.
So I love how, like, before this, he's, like, talking about, like, oh, this is so far beneath me. Oh, I'm super drunk. And then, like, Jude is, like, trying to find a way out. And all of a sudden he goes, he despised me. It's like,
it's like, okay, we're doing this now.
No, you have reached the point where you are drunk and trauma dumping right now, and here is not the place nor the time to do so.
It's like that one friend who's the fun drunk until they have that one that pushes them over the edge, and you're like, oh, great. Kathy's crying now. Like, great.
Kathy, we don't even have any friends named Kathy.
I am not name dropping the person we're all thinking of in this podcast now. I'm not doing that. I have taste and class.
But anyway, so he's like, he divulges all of this, like, saying how, like, he was forced out of the palace, nobody wants him and stuff like that. And then Jude's, like, listening to this all, and she's like, crawl.
It's like
not the time.
It's like, that's nice. Crawl.
That's nice. Move along. We'll unpack that later, if ever.
Like, then they crawl and whatever, and they're about to escape, and then they get, they have to get past some guards or whatever. And she's, like, letting him talk very stupidly. She's like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And he somehow, in his drunken manner, manages to get them past these guards by, like, saying they're from a different country.
Not messengers. From Queen Orla. No, not Orla. What queen did they say they were?
Glitton?
Queen Glitton.
Queen Glitton in the Northwest.
She's, like, the queen of the Unseelie courts, correct?
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Because, like, they are part of the Seelie court, and Queen Glitton is, like, the Unseelie court. Yeah. She runs the court of termites, correct? Oh, no, that's the other guy.
There's so many courts and kings of various different insects, and I just can't keep up anymore.
Well, see, here's the thing. The Seelie and the Unseelie courts are divided into, like, two different things. So, like, the Seelie court is its own thing. They're more, like, mannered, if you can call it that.
And mannered, question mark?
And the Unseelie court is, like, chaotic and stuff like that. So once the Unseelie court, the Seelie court, and the Undersea were all fighting each other, and then the king and Queen Mab, they, like, united everybody. So within each of the courts, the Seelie court, the Unseelie court, and the Undersea, there's different kingdom and stuff like that. They all answer to the king. Or they would if there was a king at this moment, which there's not, which is why
this is all happening.
Exactly.
Oh, the end of this chapter, though, when she presses the knife to his throat.
Oh,
yeah.
Hottest moment.
You shouldn't be. It's like, oh,
I love
okay.
That. I think that's when I fell in love with Jude. In the end of this chapter, is her just being like, surprised? You shouldn't be. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and even her like inner monologue leading up to that. The most important boy in fairy and my enemy, finally in my power. It feels even better than I ever thought it would.
It just finally feels like Jude finally is getting a handle on something. Because until then, at least at this point, because I have thoughts in later chapters, it finally is just like, I can finally take destiny in my own hands.
Yeah.
And it's just like, instead of being, sitting by the wayside, Taryn, she's actually like doing something about it.
Chapter 22, though.
I'm going to say one thing. If you're reading at home, play a drinking game. One shot for every time Jude says she's going to slap Carden.
Yeah,
because
it happens a lot.
Yeah, we get it. You want to smack him. Can you do it already?
I thought she
was
do
it. You won't.
Literally. I think one of the most amazing things about this chapter is how pivotal it is for the plot of the story. From her realizing, oh shit, what am I supposed to do? To realizing I can use Carden, when she's talking to the roach and the ghost, and then going home and finding out about Locke, which that was the nail in the coffin.
I knew it. I saw it coming from the beginning because I knew he was going to be quote unquote into Taryn, if you can even call it that. Are we unpacking this now, or should we we can unpack?
I'm just stuck on the whole scene between Jude and Carden on the very first page of chapter 22. That's just where my mind is. You guys can keep going. I'm just gonna keep rereading that because that was very hot.
I'm just like, let me be horny.
Listen,
for 5 seconds.
I love enemies to lovers, and I hate Carden, but at the same time, you give me like a crumb of that kind of tension, like,
I'm
sorry, but I'm gonna be stuck there for a long time.
I would like to unpack this later.
Okay.
But we'll get there later because I have my thoughts on the whole Jude and Carden, lovers question mark situation. So, but yeah,
I want to know where your mind was at when. Are we talking about Locke now? Or
we can talk about Locke. Let's talk about Locke and how much of a dickwad he is.
So I want to know where your mind was at when you were reading that. Like, what
the full confession?
Yeah,
of,
the full confession of it. Just realizing that he played her like a fiddle.
Again, predictable. Like it's this noble man who just all of a sudden started liking her. I'm like, red flag. Yeah. Again, seen it before, been through it before. It doesn't work. It doesn't end well. But also the fact, my favorite is that it's just like, I love how he picks both the twins. Like, man clearly has a type. Because he fell for identical twins and can't pick which one he goes for.
I don't think you can call it falling for it. He was
not falling for. He was using them. But it's just... And Taryn's still like,
Taryn's still in love with him.
He loves me. Like, no. Sweetie, he doesn't.
Them dueling it out, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The one time Taryn has a spine and it's to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, even then,
girl, I cannot stand her.
Well, even then, she's like, I'm out of practice, and Jude's like, bitch, try me.
Mitch, I'm not, so fight.
Yeah. And the fact that even Jude gives Taryn her sword to fight with, I'm like...
Her father's sword.
Yeah.
We're thinking about that.
I'm like, are you... This Taryn does not deserve anything. Like, anything at all, and you're still showing her love. And the fact that Taryn still doesn't see that absolutely irks me.
Yeah. Well, it's also the fact that, like, it doesn't bother Taryn that Locke played both of them.
Yeah.
No. Because here's the thing. I feel like this is girl code. If you're played by the same guy, there is an unspoken, alliance.
Yeah, and even
if you're not a terrible person.
Even Maddox is like, this isn't going to end well. What are you doing,
So,
Taryn?
I actually had that written down. It was, Okay, wait, no, actually, there's one thing I wanted to say before that. 277... The one thing that Taryn did say that I liked is like, I'm a mirror. I'm the mirror you don't want to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I may have jumped out
like I said, but finally she shows a backbone, and it's to the wrong fucking person.
It literally is. Like, Jude has not deserved anything that has come from Taryn this entire time. And, like, I get it. Taryn's trying to blend in and trying to find her place in a world where she doesn't have one, but it's just kind of like, okay, that's your sister. What are you doing, homie?
And then Vivi glamoring them.
Oh,
and realizing that she can't be glamored anymore.
Yeah, that exposed that secret.
Yeah. And she didn't even know if it was going to stay around once Dean died.
But the fact that it did. That's what I find fascinating.
Like, she's like, you have no right. And Vivi's like, oh my gosh. You well, also you won't follow me.
Vivi did have a right. I'm not gonna lie, like, she did have a right, because she full on was just like, I told you to stop, you didn't. Like, fuck around and find out. Like, I don't know. I personally think that Vivi was not in the wrong to glamour them this round.
Probably not, just because she wanted them to stop. But at the same time, I think the way that Jude and Taryn are sisters, it was like their way of working it out. I mean, granted, Jude was really angry.
But this also isn't like, she stole my makeup. This is like, you stole my man or whatever. But it's not even that. It's just, the one person to blame in this is Locke. Yeah. And the fact that they let that idiot get in the way of, like, them being family. Yeah. No, gross.
And, like, I think what really sealed the deal for me, understanding where Jude was coming from in this whole thing, is like, she says, I get why he chose her, but I just wish she had chosen me.
Yep.
It's like,
Taryn, you fucked up.
It's one of those moments where, like, if you ever seen the guy on TikTok that does those loyalty tests, when he has the two girls and they call one of their boyfriends, and then the boyfriend fails the loyalty test, and the girl attacks her best friend who called him, and it's like, dude, you agreed to this, but now that it didn't go your way, you are pissed off at me, and when instead you should be pissed off at the guy that just betrayed you.
And also, I'm like wondering, I always wonder if half the time, I feel like when those happen, they always assume that the other girl is like they've already been doing it, and the other girl's like, I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is just bad. I have seen one video of that go well, where the girl like started crying and her best friend like comforted her. It's like, oh yeah, they're not like ripping each other's throats out.
No, but like it's the same thing. Like, why would you go after the person that like she's family, dude? And you let this guy get in the middle of everything, and he's not even that great of a guy.
It's like, and it's also just assuming. It's obviously different in the fact where it's like the best friend actually cheated. Like that's different, but it's just, yeah, it just gives me vibes. Also, the way she's just so quick to drop her sister.
Yeah.
Nope,
dude. Can we also talk about the fact that Maddox gave Taryn a set of fucking table knives?
Yeah,
instead of a sword.
Like
he knows his daughter so well. He's like, well, you're gonna get married anyway, so here's a table knife that you can use.
And for Jude, it's like, I have a sword.
Yeah.
I have a sword that was made by my father. Matt's like, here's a set of kitchen knives.
Yeah.
Like,
tell me you're the favorite without telling me.
Yeah. No, right?
Yeah. Well, that was us dipping into 23 as well, I guess. That whole
thing was in 23.
Yeah. Which also, I have one more. I think this is 23. Page 277. When is it 277? No, not 277. 281.
Oh, 281. Okay.
279 and 280. When it's like, they're mad, but then they just start cracking a joke, where it's literally just like, I guess you could name your steak knives Meaty the Elder or Gristlebane. Yeah. I say, and she makes a little snorting sound that sounds like the smothering of a laugh. It's like, that is having a sibling.
Yeah, that really is. 101. Like, I am pissed at you, but you did say something really funny, so I'm going to laugh, but I'm going to pretend that I didn't.
Yeah, that's literally, like, that is what it's like. That is, if anybody asks me what it's like to have siblings, I'm going to point that out. It's like, you're just so pissed. It's like, all right.
And here at the end of this, Taryn tries to blame Jude.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no. And then Maddox says something here. It says, but Taryn begins, and Maddox holds up a hand with the menace of his curled finger. Why can't I read that? Whatever. He said, was the challenger. Did she thrust the sword into your hands and make you swing it? You really think your sister has no honor, that she would chop you into pieces while you stood unarmed? And then Taryn glowers, putting her chin up. I didn't want to fight, and then you ought not to in the future.
Like, she's throwing a fit like a toddler, like, crossing her arms. I didn't want to fight.
Then why'd you pick up the sword?
Like, you slashed your sister's side. Like, she challenged you. You accepted when you picked up the sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. Well, another thing is, that I thought was that I liked with Maddox. This is actually the one like time I was like, yeah, Maddox, you did something right. Where it's just like,
after he just murdered a ton of people.
Well, right, but that I have never found myself particularly changeable, Maddox said, and that I found him to be unworthy of both of you. The fact that he was like, no, you're not worthy of my daughters.
Yeah, and it's like,
shut up.
He even tells Taryn, whatever pleasure you find with Locke, your loyalty is to your family. And like, she hasn't been loyal to her family.
Not once.
Nope.
Not once.
Name one time that Taryn was loyal in this book. I'll wait.
Yeah, there is not a single instance.
No.
Not a
and then the way she sweeps Jude under the rug by saying, you should ask Jude where Prince Carden is. The last time I saw him, he was dancing with her.
Yeah, way to snitch.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, way to throw her right under the bus.
Dude.
Even though buses don't, like, exist.
And then he's like, let's talk about your behavior tonight, Jude. And then she's like, let's talk about your behavior.
It's like, we've got some things to unpack.
And then he just sighs. And he's like, you were there, weren't you? And I'm like, yeah, I was. You want to talk about how you murdered, like, 6 people?
Just now? One of them being the crown prince, because, like, I got all day.
And then they're talking, and then she's like, you think I'd take Locke from Taryn? And he's like, you seemed like you wanted to take Taryn's head from her shoulders.
And Jude's like, yeah.
Obviously.
I did. Fight me.
It's like, she played me, dude.
Which... there are a lot of things I tolerate. I do not tolerate being played. Being played and backed into a corner. Those are my two things. So I totally get why Jude be like, I'm gonna slice you now.
Hey, and then Jude is like, I thought you were supposed to lecture me about not sword fighting in the house.
The fact that he's like, no, I don't care about that. Just like, it's your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's just, oh, yep. I must tell you that if your blade had struck true and you had hurt Taryn, you would have regretted it all your days. Of all the lessons I imparted to you, I would have thought that was the one I taught you the best. Like, and then he's like, she realizes, oh my god, he's talking about murdering my mother. Like,
yeah, that was a big line for me.
Oh, and then he has a moment here when she asks him, how do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
And then he goes, some are good with pipes or paint. Some have skills in love, he says finally. My talent is in making war, and the only thing that has kept me awake was denying it.
Yep. Like,
that was a pretty
intense too. Just, oh man.
What did you think, Allie, about Vivi inviting Jude to run away to the mortal world? She just wants to leave.
I'm really surprised that this is what made Vivi want to go. Like, I'm just surprised that she didn't already do it.
Yeah.
Like,
this took her this long.
Like, yeah, pretty much that. Because really, nothing's stopping her. Because Maddox may be a lot of things, but I don't think he'd be one to murder his daughter. Well, like, Jude, it might be a little bit different because it's like a stepkid situation, but it's like, I feel like I almost said Carden. Maddox would be like, oh, well, I found you in the human world, so, like, you're coming back with me.
Well, see, here's the thing.
But I don't know.
The only reason that he murdered her mother was because she lied to him and fabricated a ton of shit, and he was basically coming back to take back his honor. That was why he killed her. I do not think if Vivi and Jude would have run away there, that he would have come back trying to kill them. I think he would have tried to get them to come back with him. I do not think he would have murdered him. Like, the only reason that he murdered her mom was to take back his honor, and because she basically just, like, crapped all over his name before she left, and then fled the Feywild with a human man. Like, I don't think they would get killed. I think they'd get a stern talking to.
Probably.
I don't think they would get killed.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm not mad.
Okay, so are we on chapter 24? Okay. Is this the chapter of the big reveal?
I gotta remember. Which big reveal are we talking about?
Oak?
Oh, yeah. I think this is. Wait. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is when she's starting to piece it together with the Lyriope's note and
Lyriope's
Lyriope.
No, I just
Lyriope's.
You're disrespecting
after she found
a
dead woman.
Yeah, because back in chapter 22, she found out about Dane's heir being poisoned.
Yeah.
And the
yeah, that's
and then she's like, Oak isn't Maddox's child, is he? Or at least no more than Maddox than I am. And then Oriana's like, shit.
And she doesn't even, like, try to deny it. She's full on, like, don't say that.
Yeah,
do not say it.
I think this conversation that her and Oriana have is really special in a way, because it's kind of like,
it makes Oriana more human, even though she's not technically human.
Yeah.
Like, it just gives her that character development, and her actions start to make some sense.
Yeah.
Like, I liked, again, I really appreciated that she's not just some evil stepmother. Like, she's not great, but she's not, like, she has reasons for her motives, and they're good ones.
Yeah, and the fact that they even get explained in this book, I think is
her
good.
motivation was simply to protect her best friend's son.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is fair. And I mean, bless you. Bless
Excuse
you.
me.
And I can kind of see, again, I can see why she wouldn't take so much to Jude and Taryn, but even though she was never hostile to them, she was just careful around them.
And then her describing how Blusher Mushroom kills you.
Oh,
God. And what she had to do to save Oak. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, also, I liked the connection where it's like Jude starts to remember, it's like, wow, we weren't allowed to see him for a couple months. You know, that's why she was so protective of him, not because she was afraid of us, she was afraid for him.
Yep. And then you find out Maddox's real reasoning to side with Balkan. And him wanting to put Oak on the throne.
And be regent himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Pretty
obviously.
much.
Very much so. But at the same time, you gotta give Maddox credit.
He's a smart man.
is
He's
thinking
smart.
ahead. Like, he's planning.
He's
like,
sadistic,
5
but
years
he's
ahead.
smart.
Yeah.
Which is like describing half of the villains that you fall for in YA fantasy.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I can't say shit. I
mean-
love Casbreaker.
One of the last scenes that I really liked was Oriana saying, once you said I was wrong about you, that you would never hurt Oak. Tell me, can you do anything? Is there a chance? And it kind of, like, she tries to give Oriana that hope, being like, well, maybe I can. And I think it's her also realizing, I think I actually can make a change. I have Carden. I have these other people on my side, so
Yeah. Here's another one that I like. 297, the end of this chapter. On my way out, I spot my little brother. He is out in the garden picking a bouquet of foxgloves. He's laughing, sunlight turning his brown hair gold. When his nurse comes toward him, he darts away from her. I bet he doesn't even know those flowers are poison. If that doesn't describe just the that, I feel like every person has that one moment in their life where they realize childhood's over.
yeah.
And that is just that is the parallel of just one day he's gonna find out those flowers are poisonous, and one day he's gonna have that moment. Like every single person in this world has it, where they realize that they're not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And it's
his is coming up fast.
Yeah, and it's stark, and it was just really beautifully written. I definitely appreciated the foreshadowing / symbolism in that.
And after the heavy chapters that were before,
Laughter.
Then we have 25.
Just okay.
Carden's just
Gambling. And Jude's just like, what? You're supposed to keep him tied up. They're like, what? He's not gonna do anything.
With us. He's our friend. Like, and he even goes to say to Jude, I thought we were friends.
It's really the definition of it's really just the bit of I left you alone for an hour.
Yeah. And then Carden's thing here. I do not mind being one-handed, Carden interjects, but if you're going to restrain both of my hands, then you'll have to pour some wine directly into my mouth. And I was like, okay, dude, I know what you're doing here. Oh
so
gosh.
Also, I'm noticing that this is kind of the point where Jude starts to have feelings for Carden and start falling for him. And this is where we're gonna get into this quote unquote enemies to lovers. They're not lovers at this point.
No, they're not.
They are not.
No.
Because
she's using him and he's using her.
They're using each other, and also the fact that Jude doesn't know. She doesn't like him right now.
Yeah.
She feels attraction to him. There's no denying that.
Oh yeah.
But it's just they're not lovers yet.
No,
I'm not saying that there's not potential for that. But I personally think, I'm like, Jude, do you love him? And are you attracted to him because you're attracted to him? Or are you attracted to him because he's giving you attention?
Saying you have to remember that Jude is going through a lot of traumatic things, one right after the other, in very short spans of time. She killed somebody. She was a spy. Then a lot of people were murdered in front of her. Carden was drunk and she was trying to figure out what to do.
It's the CPTSD for
she
me.
Had all of this dumped on her,
and then finding out Oak is not really Maddox's child, realizing Maddox's whole plan, the fact that she's fighting with her sister over a lot. This all happened, I'm guessing, in a span of 10 hours.
Yeah,
I gotta know when the last time she drank water was.
And also, she hasn't slept in a really long time.
Jeez, God love her.
Back to chapter 20, what is it, 23? Vivi literally is like, you look paler and sicker. Are you okay? I'm worried about you.
And she's like, yeah,
I'm fine. It's like, no, you're not.
But are you?
Okay, but this moment, though, when she finally, when Carden finally admits some stuff, he's
I never wanted anyone dead.
Like that. You're terrifying. Nearly my whole family is dead, and while they never had much love for me, I don't want to join them. I've spent all night worrying what you're going to do, and I know exactly what I deserve. I have a reason to be nervous. That's the first time he's ever admitted weakness in this entire book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I do love his little cheekiness prior to that, being like, ask about my tail. Don't you want to see it?
Again, I just, another little pet peeve. I just forgot that Carden has a tail.
Yeah.
And it's just not... Like, nobody cares, and it's weird.
Collectively, as a fandom, I've been on Cool Prince, like, TikTok and Instagram and stuff. People just collectively do not mention the tail. They're like, you don't talk about the tail, and the tail is not there. Like, he has fan arts of it, but most fan arts that he has,
the tail.
Most fan arts that he has, the tail is not visible.
Yeah,
it's only a very select few that he will have be seen.
It's
with
just
the tail.
Weird. I'm sorry, and the fact that it's just not a.
It's a donkey tail.
It's a donkey tail.
It's a donkey tail.
It's just the fact that it trips the uncanny valley. I'm like, you are not human. You have a tail. It's weird. What is going on right now?
Oh, and then she asks him about the piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. He says, I found a piece of paper with my name on it. I say over and over and over again, just my name. He flinches. He flinches a little, but doesn't say anything. Like, oh, you've got him. Yeah. And then he goes, that's not a question.
Yeah.
Like, did I ask if that was a question?
Yeah. Ooh, towards the end of this chapter, she's like, I lean toward him, close enough for a kiss. His eyes widen. The look on his face is some commingling of panic and desire. It is a heady feeling, having power over someone.
This is proof that two tops in a relationship do not work.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, come on, think about it. Neither of them is gonna give.
Nope. And I think that's what's very cool about their dynamic in this book is they go from like Carden having the power to then Carden realizing that they both have now that the turntables have turned here. And then she says, "You really do want me, enough to feel the warmth of his breath as it hitches, and you hate it." And then she angles the knife, and I'm like,
that is so sexy.
I will admit that this whole scene, I was reading it in the car on the way to Disney on Ice, and I was just like, okay, keep your cool.
I'm not nearly as alarmed as when I bring my mouth to his, and I'm like,
this is the kind of tension that I enjoy.
Like, I'm not saying I think it's amazingly written and a great scene, but it just feels unnecessary. They hate each other.
It's very necessary. I enjoy it.
Okay,
here's the deal.
Unnecessary.
Smut in books can go away if it was just replaced by this. This tension, like play back and forth.
Well, okay.
As someone who does enjoy a good smut book, there is something to be said about smut, but this type of tension and writing
is just as, if not better.
Yeah, it will always be unmatched to any smut you could.
No, I think okay. So maybe unnecessary wasn't the right word because like it was a great thing. Abrupt is better.
Yeah,
it felt abrupt.
I remember the first time
not unnecessary, but very abrupt.
Yeah. Exactly, that's it. Like, I'm just like, you hate him,
and I think that was kind of the point. Is like for both Jude and the reader, it was a very abrupt, out of the blue, very unlike Jude thing to do. And I think that's part of showing the amount of trauma that she just went through, and the
walls are finally starting to kick down. And true, that is a good point. The lack of processing thing. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense.
And then that leads directly into chapter 26. Yeah. I love how Holly Black does not just end it there. And
she keeps freaking going.
She keeps going, and I feel like a lot of authors make that abrupt moment there, and they skip forward and then have the character flash back to whatever moment that was. I like how Black keeps going.
Yeah, it's just like the cliche where they're about to kiss, and then like somebody just comes in on her like without knocking or whatever, and then they just never speak of it again. It's like
I hate that.
It's really abrupt like that.
Oh, and then she asks, when she asks him if the kiss was what he imagined, and then he says no. He says tonelessly, "Tell me," I say. He shakes his head. "Unless you are really going to stab me, I think I won't. And I might not tell you even if you were going to stab me."
He's got a crush.
He's got a knife kink, bro.
Or is this where it's just like, I'll serve you and not for a minute more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's like, or is that a bit farther ahead?
No.
I think it's in the end of this chapter.
Yeah, I think it's the end of this chapter. She comes back and is like, "Alright, we're gonna strike a mother frickin' deal, bro."
Oh yeah, and then it goes into her
She's telling him,
contemplating like what to do if she wants
here
to
it
run
is.
away.
Jude Duarte, daughter of Clay, I swear myself into your service. I will act as your hand. I will act as your shield. I will act in accordance with your will. Let it be so for 1 year and 1 day, and not for 1 minute more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Just okay. What else are you gonna say? He still doesn't like her.
And he still hates, like,
They both still hate each other.
Still hate each other, and there's this odd tension of them being like, why do I feel these other things? It's like they're separating it into boxes. Like, I hate this person, but there's these other feelings over here.
Because Jude's traumatized, and Jude is the only person who ever gave Carden attention. That's why this is not romance. This is a trauma bond.
This is trauma bonding.
She gave him attention that was not like just to please him.
Yeah.
You know, like she actively fought back against him.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I think that's
no, how that
like
ends.
it's like telling the rich kid no for once, and then they suddenly start to realize how much they love you. It's a version of that.
Yeah, and I hate that trope. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. But I think the one thing I will give Holly Black credit for is that this trope exists. It doesn't feel like predatory though. Like you don't see Carden trying to win Jude and and trying to like romance her. And, like you don't see him like wearing her down until she gives in. You see him trying to actively like push back from it, which I like and appreciate.
Yeah. Because I think they do the both of them do that to each other. They both push each other more, and that's why they end up where they end up.
Yeah.
There's like this push and pull, and it like, and then she said at the very end of this chapter, it almost seems like he prefers a nest of spies and assassins to the splendor of his own bed. Like he starts to feel comfortable, and she realizes, hey, maybe the Carden that I know isn't necessarily the Carden that's real.
Because he finally has a place where he feels like he kind of fits in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because all of his siblings and stuff, like, they had their own mark. Like, Carden is significantly younger than all of his siblings. Like, he was the last. He was
so he is the youngest, right?
He is the youngest. He was technically, I think, a mistake. But he never really fit in with all the siblings. Like, he had to go live with Balkan because there was nowhere else for him to go because Dane kicked him out and his father didn't care about him. So now he finally is in a place where he feels like he can start over. Of course he's going to love it.
And I don't blame him for that.
I mean, he was rejected his whole life, and so he's finally in a place where people aren't beating him the first chance they get and like accepting him not really as his own, but he's useful for once in his life instead of being told of how unuseful he is.
Right.
All right, chapter 27. This is where Jude commands Carden for the first time. I think that's the first thing. And he
listens.
And he has to.
I know.
For it.
But I feel like it gives Jude, again, that high of being in control that she is actively always seeking for. Now she has it at her fingertips because she is in control of a fairy, which is not something that is done. It is not something that is done. A mortal controlling a fairy is not at all done in this world.
Oh yeah.
So having that,
it's always the other way around.
Yeah, like she has power now over one of the Fae, and not only one of the Fae, but her mortal enemy.
Well, what I want to see is I like that Jude doesn't let it get to her head. Because I feel like when you are the underdog for so long, and you finally have that little slip of opportunity to get yourself on top, and then you get that bed of power, it goes straight to your head.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Jude is finally learning to be very calculated and very just cunning about it. She's not straight in, which I like that. I like that she shows some restraint. Very impressive with everything else going on, that she's actually able to slightly restrain herself with what's happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. And then there's a lot of
world
building and like
talking to people in the Unseelie court.
Yeah, and Queen Annette, and then I think we get a little bit Queen Anna is... Okay, she's unseelie. I'm trying to remember what court she's from. I know she's unseelie, but like...
Termite?
No. Is she?
I don't know.
Hold on, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I know who she is, I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Ugh, excuse me. 10-hour shift catching up to me.
I think she's Queen of the Termites.
Yeah.
Boom! I remembered something!
I'm not 100% certain because...
Correct us if we're wrong.
Hold on.
Yeah, correct.
No, Roybin is the king of the court of termites.
Well...
Roybin is the court of termites. So Anna...
crud.
Who is Anna? Hold on.
I forgot.
Now it's gonna bug me. Court of Moths. Court of Moths.
Close enough.
Court of Moths, and then Roybin is Court of Termites. That's what I thought, because I thought the Court of Termites was headed by a man, and I couldn't remember his name. Roybin. Okay, Roybin is the king of termites.
Yeah.
And Anna is Moths, the Court of Moths. Okay.
Also,
yeah,
dude using lying to her advantage.
Yes.
My favorite is that I feel like everyone in this book forgets that she's human and that she can lie.
Yeah.
And they don't just so she can use that for her advantage. And I love that she just does it.
They don't forget that she's human, but they forget the one fundamental advantage of being human, and that is that she can lie.
Yeah.
And that's what Dane had originally chosen her for. He chose her because she could lie, and it's so ironic that she is now just using that for the very first time.
Yeah.
Now after he's gone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because she told. Yeah. I don't think she lied once.
I mean,
Well,
she actually did.
But it was established that she could.
Yeah.
You know, she never used it to her advantage, but she never was like, nope, lying's bad.
Yeah.
Like it was just established. She's like, yeah, I can lie. Because there was the whole bit. I think when she was talking to Dane.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, my name is Jude Duarte. I was born on November, blah 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 blah, and like going into the whole speech, she's like, where's the lie? You don't know.
Exactly.
So it's just she establishes that she can lie, but it's not like. I like that it's not a secret, but it's not shoved in your face. It's not like every time Jude sees a conflict, we all know it's like, well, she's gonna lie. It's a surprise. No, she doesn't. She doesn't use that. Like she only uses it when it's important, which I like.
And to be honest, even though he can't lie, Carden is a better liar than she is because he can lie without lying.
Yeah.
Like
he can
smooth talk
the words.
He can smooth talk it. And I feel like he does it a lot better than she can, and she can actually lie. She doesn't have to sweet talk anybody. Yeah. She's just kind of bad at lying.
She can be more cutthroat with she can be more direct with her lies. She can lie directly, whereas the Fae has to kind of twist it and make it clever and because they can't lie, but they make it clever. Which is interesting, an interesting difference.
They more omit things or don't tell give specific aspects, where she could just full out not even mention something. Or completely say the opposite.
I'm trying to think if there's anything other super significant here. It's just a ton of world building. Because we're talking through all of the unseelie courts. Oh, Dulcamara, the knight.
Yes.
We do meet her. She catches Jude. Dulcamara does become very important in the next couple of books.
Yeah. Doesn't she? Oh,
she also makes an appearance, I think, in the King of how the King of Elfame learned to hate stories. I believe she's in. Yeah. Dulcamara is important in that one.
Yeah. So, chapter 28. We jump into Jude laying out her. It's page 335.
My pages were sticking together.
We jump into where Jude is then returning back to the Court of Shadows, and she's discussing, telling everybody about her plan to take back the throne from Balkan.
Yeah.
And I just love where the Balm's like, so she really does have a scheme, and she's like, a secret, which is far much more better than a scheme. We're going to walk right into Balkan's feast and steal his kingdom out from under him. How's that for vengeance? And she's like, I own this place. Look at me.
Oh yeah. I love the Balm. I'm sorry. She's just adorable.
Oh yeah.
I love her so much. Anyway.
Yeah. Back in the one chapter, it's just let me know what I need to blow up. I'm like,
Yes, yeah.
Me during a complicated spy mission. Just let me know what I.
Yeah.
you're replanning my plan. I think that was the ghost. Or no, the roach.
Mm-hmm.
You're replanning my plan. A little.
Yeah.
Then it's her coming and telling Vivi she's not going with her.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
She
But she
basically said
involves
that wants
Vivi
you
in
to
the
take Oak.
plan, which I really like.
Yes, and she's like, you need
Yes.
to take Oak with you. I need you to
And Vivi's just like,
protect him.
okay.
Mhm.
She's like,
Vivi
cool.
is such a cool older sister, honestly. Like, she
And I
has her
think it's-
moments, but she's
like she
overall
has true
really good.
defiance for her father and for Fairy, but in a way she's like, this is my sister and I love her and I'm going to do anything for her.
Mhm.
Which is a stark contrast to Taryn, and I think it always surprises Jude that Vivi is that way, especially in this scene, that Vivi is so willing to go to bat for her sister and just be like, yep, I'm here to do it.
Mhm.
Because I think in a way Vivi also knows how shitty Taryn is and is also mad at Taryn for...
Well, she also loves Oak.
Yeah.
Like, Oak is not... Think about it. Oak is the link that is full... The one thing in her life that she loves that is full fairy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, she doesn't love Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
Her sisters aren't fae.
Yeah.
But Oak is, and she still has that capability to love him. I think it's interesting because it's the one thing that keeps her from being a stereotype. Of being like the angsty teenager, like, I hate everything about this world. But she doesn't because she loves Oak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that is like, Oak is the main thing that keeps her from just falling into that trap. And you're like, yep, we've seen this before. Angsty teenager, yawn, you know. It's just that unwavering devotion that she has for him.
Yeah.
That I appreciate.
And I also really appreciate, like, the part that really broke my heart kind of in the end of this chapter is where she's talking to Vivi being like, and Vivi saying, make me promise this is going to save Oak's life. Jude says, I promise. And then Vivi replies with, and make me another promise that it's going to cost me years. And
that it's not
Jude says, or not going to cost me yours. And she says, it won't. And
Liar.
then Vivi's like, liar, you're a dirty liar. I hate this and I hate you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then
she was the one she didn't hate her.
She doesn't. She says, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Yeah, I say, I know. At least she didn't say that she hated me too. And then immediately, it's the contrast between Vivi's and Taryn's. Taryn doesn't
this
even
is like
say
one of the last things we see from Taryn.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't care.
No.
She is just...
Taryn is...
I would love to see Holly Black break down Taryn.
Yeah.
Because I'm almost wondering, like, did she do this on purpose? Like, is there something about Taryn that happens in the next book or in this series that we're missing? Because I almost feel like, you know, there's always that one character that is the hateable character, but you're too quick to judge them.
Yeah.
Like, are we too quick to judge Taryn?
Well, I also
feel...
Yeah,
because there's a reason that we don't like her, and the reasons are very, very valid. But it's like, are we judging her so quickly?
I feel like it's also like a whole nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
Because her and Jude grew up in the same house, in the same situation, and ended up two completely different people. So was it the circumstances that they were raised in, or was it the person themselves that were innately born with that? That's just my education brain going, because we talk a lot about nature versus nurture. And, like, again, you can even lump Vivi into that as well.
Oh, yeah.
There are three distinct personalities coming from being raised in the exact same way, having the exact same traumatic events transpire. More so Jude and Taryn, but even Vivi, if you lump her in.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you get to be so different?
Well, Vivi and Jude are a little bit more similar, I think. Which is interesting because they're not twins.
They're not twins.
Yeah.
It's like the one person that should be the closest to you is your exact opposite. And, like, in a way, it's poetic, but at the same time, it's like, man.
Yeah, and I think there was intentional contrast between the two of them to show the two different, and not necessarily
the
sides.
two different ways to cope with trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, one is to just, I know there's fight, flight, and then
freeze and fawn.
And Jude, 100% hands down, is fight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She'll always fight the system.
And I feel like Vivi a little bit too is fight.
Yeah.
Taryn is the definition of fawn.
Oh, yeah. I was
She
thinking the
is
same thing.
It is the complete opposite of fight. It is like the anti-fight.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. I just find it interesting to see how they act and why they do what they do. Because I want to know, what was the turning point for Taryn that she decided to do that?
Yeah.
What was the point where Jude went down fight and Taryn didn't? Like, when did she give up?
Because, like,
she couldn't have given up. Like, when she was first there, they were little. And, you know, they were hanging out and they were doing their thing. And yes, they blended into the fairy, but that was just strict for survival. When was the turning point where Taryn gives up?
Yeah.
Because Maddox raised them the same way. He made them go through strategy training. He made them go through, like, battle training. He sent them to have, like, classes with the fairy. Everything leading up to that point was exactly the same for both of them.
Yeah.
And then something had to happen, like you said. What was that turning point for Taryn that she became so different from Jude? I want to know that so badly. I almost, as much as I would hate it because I hate Taryn, I would love a book from the perspective, like the Cruel Prince book, the first one, from the perspective of Taryn herself. So I can see what the fuck was going on in her mind that was so different from that of Jude's. What was that moment that made her not a fighter? Like,
I feel
but not a lover either.
Yeah, I think it was just definitely a difference in personality, really. But I think that Taryn, I had something in my brain that was a little bit more smart than what I'm thinking of right now. I think just mostly there's a difference in personality between Jude and Taryn, even though they were raised pretty much exactly the same. They have the same setup in life. I think there might have been a turning point where Taryn realized, I can't fight this like Jude can. I think there maybe was some insecurity there, but at the same time, Taryn was like, the easier way is to just.
But I don't see Taryn as, like, lazy though.
Because she doesn't seem
not lazy.
She's not lazy. Not lazy, but not lazy in the sense that we would think it. But the fact that she's not willing to fight because it's easier for her to cope with the trauma by backing down and away from the things that Jude technically wouldn't.
But yeah, I definitely think it's interesting to see the contrast of just Taryn doesn't react and Jude sometimes overreacts.
Yeah,
sometimes
Jude
overreacts all the goddamn time. All right.
Chapter 29 is really when we get into the action here.
Which I appreciate a lot.
Well, after a ton of that world building and a ton of, like, that dialogue, like, between two characters, like, building them up, I love me some action. And here it is. This is the chapter for action.
Get into the breakdown of what Jude plans to really do. They start to execute it. I think it's relatively smoothly.
I know! I was expecting... I mean, maybe it's just because we're in the falling action, but it goes well.
Yeah.
And you don't expect it to go well. And she even throws in a twist that nobody's expecting, and it still goes well, which we'll unpack in a little bit.
Like, I feel like whenever you see a movie or a series and you know that this big plan is, you automatically know it's not going to go well. And this goes well, and it's such a contrast to what we're always seeing.
And it's a twist. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Are you both familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes.
You watched the series in full?
Yes.
The ending, when Aang is like, he finishes the battle, and you expect it to happen, you expect him to win, and you expect him to win the 100 Years' War. What you do not expect is for him to spare Fire Lord Ozai. But he does.
Yeah.
He takes away his bending. He doesn't go without punishment, which I think is great, because a lot of, like, heroes with the whole, like, for example, in the Lion King, where, like, Simba's just like, oh yeah, Scar, just run away, like, just run, like, you're being a pushover.
Yeah, and you're inviting somebody to come back and kill you again.
Right. Yeah. But, like, in this instance, it's like Jude is not a pushover. The plan goes accordingly, but she still is like, there's a better way to do this. We're doing it. Which I think is really nice.
All right.
Yeah. Can we also talk about the whole the wine glass thing where Maddox's like, how'd you know what glass I picked? She's like, I didn't.
Yeah.
She's like,
I poisoned them both.
Yeah. That
was a
badass
moment.
When she bests the man who taught her how to strategize.
Yeah.
Like, Maddox can't even be mad about that. Like, you taught her exactly what you wanted to teach her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like you can't be mad about that at all.
I mean, you can, but, like, go home and cry about it.
And then he says, you will be very sorry. And then he says, I looked deep into his eyes and I sheathed my sword. Father, I am what you made me. I became your daughter after all.
Yeah,
that was like probably
and then he collapses.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's probably one of the most beautiful things that she's ever said.
Honestly. Oh yes.
I have this written down. This is way back with 303. It's like, Locke hasn't seduced me yet. I'm offended. That made me laugh. Sorry, off topic with the serious things, but I just saw my notes and note to self, Allie, write down the quotes, even though you're in a moving car with 2 screaming children.
That's okay. Chapter 30 is kind of when we end the book-ish. I mean, there's still the epilogue, but chapter 30 is kind of when everything comes to a head.
Can we talk about Oak, though? Like, looking at Vivi and Jude, like, wondering if he did good when crowning Carden, and Carden's just like, what is happening?
Did you expect that?
No.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Really? I expected it, like,
okay,
in
well,
chapter
I shouldn't
29.
say I
didn't expect it.
I shouldn't say I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it, but it didn't catch me by surprise.
It caught me by surprise the first time.
It made sense. Like, I read it, I was just like, I'm like, oh, wait. I'm like, because at first I was like, wait a minute, I thought we were crowning Oak. And then I read on, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you did there. I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't like, what? Oh my gosh.
The first time I read that, I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I was kind of just like, okay, unexpected. Let's see where this is going.
I love the whole scene between Baelkin and Carden where Baelkin's like, Carden, bring me the crown. And he's like, no, I don't think I will.
It's the first time that Carden has ever stood up to Baelkin.
And I think it's beautiful.
Also, can we talk about the one thing that Taryn did right in that she gave the crown to Jude?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The one thing. But
I have to wonder, was that out of love for her sister? Or was that just because she didn't want to deal with it?
I think, she didn't want to deal with it, and out of fear because she knows she's kind of in the wrong with Jude. But, like, just, I think, overall, she did it out of fear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 30.
And it kind of ends with everything after it crashes all down. Carden's been crowned. Everybody bows. And then she's like, yet I'm surprised when he turns to me, eyes blazing. It feels that the room is empty, but for the both of us, he lifts his glass anew, mouth curving in a mockery of smile. And to Jude, who gave me a gift tonight, one that I plan to repay in kind. Which, I was like, oh, okay, kind of repayment.
Oh, and then they give her the code
it's gonna, like, I'm gonna stab you repayment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, Carden is like attracted to her or whatever, but is also just like he still hates her.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, it just, the switch feels abrupt, and the switch is gonna feel abrupt because I'm like, how do you go from morbidly hating, and I love enemies to lovers just as much as the next guy, but how do you go from hating each other with that deep-seated hatred to not? Because here's the thing, one of I forget who said this, but I heard it from Cinema Therapy from Jonathan Decker. You hate because you once loved.
Or like when you truly get to know your enemy, you also love them as well.
Yeah.
Like you can't help but
the
love
enemy
them.
of the enemy is my friend.
Well, and the ending of this chapter, when Bomb gives her the nickname, it says, the bomb elbows me in the side. We came up with your code name, she mouths. I haven't even seen her come in past the locked doors. What? I feel as tired as I have ever been, and yet, for 7 years, I will never be able to truly rest. I expect her to say the liar, but she gives me a trickish grin full of secrets. What else? The queen. It turns out I still don't know how to laugh.
It's probably because you want a Decker for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clever and cruel and perfect all at the same time.
And then we get a target run.
Yeah,
yes,
target run and done.
We've earned the target run. Yeah. I'm just gonna say,
in the mortal world.
Yeah. I love how he's just living. Like he's immediately just like, I'm gonna buy all this candy, and
he's
everyone's like,
living his best life.
Like, yay. Oh my god.
He's like, after that trauma, I'm getting candy.
In the candy aisle, he adds bars of chocolate to the cart along with jelly beans, lollipops, and chunks of candied ginger. Vivi doesn't stop him, and I don't either.
Yeah.
Just, fair enough. Spend a long day, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the little
and then
when he
him
makes
having-
the personal pan pizza, and it's just like filled with chocolate.
Yeah,
You sweet
oh my
child.
Gosh. And then, Heather gets involved here. So he's really your brother, right? You could tell me if he was your son. I've got secrets, but that's not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another thing, just, you know what? No, we'll add that to the final thoughts. We're going to add that to the final thoughts.
And Heather drives a Prius. Prius supremacy.
Yeah,
whatever.
supremacy.
Is this the one who drives a Tellus?
Oh, and then
Tellus?
Tesla.
Tesla. Tellus is a bar that we go to.
Shut up! I'm tired.
Now who's the alcoholic? No.
That's my trademark.
I have been there twice. That's not fair.
Oak asking him if his mom will visit.
Yeah.
Oh,
she totally
that
will.
Was dear.
Oh my god.
Like near and dear to my heart.
Baby.
It's so cute.
Okay.
What do we think
The
about the very last page?
This is what you wanted, isn't it? He asked. What you sacrificed everything for. Go on. It's all yours. And Jude's like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't supposed to be mine. I was just supposed
The
to
fact
be
that he
helpful.
still doesn't understand. He still doesn't get why Jude is doing any of this. And I think it really shows.
Keeps him in the
And you can tell by his last monologue here about him saying, I will be a good king. You very well, Jude, have won. You contend with Balkan. You won, whatever. I'll be the useless shield you put in front of your brother. Don't expect me to start being useful. And it's like, you still don't get it. But he still hates her.
Yeah, it's...
yeah.
But yeah, that is the end of the book.
Cool.
So, final
Quiz.
thoughts.
Final
wrap-up.
thoughts. So, here's what I think. On Goodreads,
Yeah.
because they don't give half stars, which Goodreads, if you're listening to this, we want half stars.
Yep.
I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
I think that's fair.
Because
honestly.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good story, but there were just things in it that I wasn't a fan of and that kind of irked me.
Yeah.
For example, the world building was decent. It just, if you're going to set it up like a diary entry, establish that it's a diary.
Yeah.
Like, it just, to me, it just felt it felt like a disconnect. I didn't feel as connected with the Fae. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Like, the world building itself was great, but I didn't appreciate how disconnected I felt from it.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Second, Heather, just not mentioned. Like, she could have done a lot with that in this book.
Mm-hmm.
A lot with raising Oak. There was a lot that could have gone into Heather and Vivi's relationship and like explaining what's going on with that.
I mean,
and it just
that kind
isn't
of happens
there.
in the
That
next
kind of
book.
happens in the next book.
Cool. Fair enough.
Because Heather, I mean, she's briefly mentioned in the beginning, but she doesn't really become relevant until the very end.
Yeah.
And it's like, unless Holly Black wanted to pull a Sarah J. Maas and make it 700 pages.
Good
like,
point.
It's a good way to end it because it sets up a ton of things for the next book.
couple
Good
books.
point. That's true.
So,
Which you can't know until you read the other books.
Yeah.
So that's fair.
So
This is a trilogy, yes?
Yes. The
It's like a
Cruel
prequel?
Prince, for me, there's a lot of things that I put into making a book 5 stars. And I only have a very select few books that make it into that 5-star category.
Is this one of them?
No.
Okay.
I have 6 of Crows that made it in, and Crooked
Actually.
Kingdom. And then I have the Bridge Kingdom series.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I have 6 Crimson Cranes I also put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And Kingdom of Ash.
Yeah.
That's only 6 out of the God knows how many books I have that have made it into that 5-star category. And while this was a good book, and the first time I read it, I gave it 5 stars, but now that I'm thinking about it, I do definitely think it's more of a 3.5. There was a lot of things in this book that I do enjoy, but I'm not head over heels for it.
I'm not
Like,
either.
I'm a part of the fandom for it because I do enjoy it, and there's a lot of really good things about the book.
Oh yeah.
It's unique.
When I read a book and I give it 5 stars, it's like I poured my heart and soul into this book. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
You know, where like the first time I read this book, I waited like a couple of days and then I started the sequel when I read it the first time.
Yeah.
And like when I give a book 5 stars, I go right away.
Right.
Like when I read Six of Crows, I was in it. Crooked Kingdom
too.
that same day that I finished it. Bridge Kingdom, I never even paused. I just went into the next one.
And I'm the same way with this one. It's not that I wouldn't read the second one, but I don't really feel a need to. Like I mean, which I like is there's not a huge cliffhanger. I don't think I wouldn't say. I feel again. I'm not saying I won't read the second one. I just don't feel like I need to because it's just.
I will say
it's unique, but it's almost too unique.
I gave this book 4 stars initially, and I think I wanted to knock it down to 3.5. Rereading it this time, I definitely realized what I liked and what I didn't like about it. Like you guys said, there is a uniqueness. There's a uniqueness to Jude and Pardon. There's a uniqueness to Jude and her relationship with everybody in this book, and I think her story arc and the plot and just the world itself is really creative. The writing lacks a little bit in certain points.
Agreed.
I think there could have been a lot more talk about. I think there could have been a lot more in Jude's head that we could have kind of learned from.
It would have made her choices makes more sense.
Okay, here's a question that I want to pose. Okay, the last book that we read for book club, which unfortunately we didn't do a podcast for, was Six of Crows by Lee Verdugo and Crooked Kingdom. That book is written in a third-person perspective with multiple head jumps.
Yeah.
Would this book have been improved had it been written in a third-person point of view? Yeah. Or is it authentic in the way that it is in a first-person diary?
So third person, but no multiple jumps, I think would have worked.
I think if it was in third person, a Jude and Cardin duology,
that I would agree with.
Or even her and Taryn.
Or even her. I think if we got more from Taryn, I think it would have made the contrast between the two of them so much better.
Well, also it would have made Taryn maybe even more, not likable, but understandable.
More human.
Because she's just full on, like...
She's not human.
Black made her hateable.
Mm-hmm.
Too hateable.
Yeah. And its character is too hateable.
It's almost hard to forgive...
There's no, it doesn't you don't see a redemption arc.
Right, exactly. And I haven't read the other books, I haven't read the other 2 in the series, whereas I'm sure you guys have, but it's just I don't see, it's almost like she cut ties on a redemption arc for Taryn.
Well, she really did, because
how do you redeem what happened in there?
To kind of not spoil this, Taryn kind of just disappears after this book. You don't get too much else from her.
Right, and it's just why?
There's so much more she could have done. If she hadn't made her so hateable in the very first book, and we actually got some sort of context behind what was happening.
In it more, because if we're thinking about it, Taryn's only mentioned 5 times?
Something like that.
And they all
it's less so.
It's lackluster.
I don't even think she's in Wicked King at all.
She
comes back into the Queen of Nothing, and it's only a little bit. I don't know if she plays a role in The Stolen Heir.
Right. No. I'm not obviously not faulting Black as an author. I think this is a very good concept and very original and very interesting. It is very
original, but it's very just complicated.
Yeah. It's too complicated. If you're gonna make a world, if you're gonna write a fantasy novel or really any book, and you're gonna make a world that's complicated world building, you're gonna build your own setup, you need to establish that connection. But and it's just, again, it's not that I hated the book. I just felt there were points of it where reading it felt like a chore. And I'm just I'm reading this because of book club. And it's, again, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't in love. I'm just meh.
Yeah, I feel like, and again, if I'm going to give a book 4 or 5 stars, I want to keep coming back and reading it again and again.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to reread this again.
I feel like having read this a second, technically this is my 3rd time reading through it because I listened to it on audiobook when I was traveling back from Maine with my husband, and I feel like even that would have been enough, and then we decided to do this for book club, and I read through it a 3rd time. I really don't feel the need to pick this up for a really long time again.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe in a year or 2 I'll want to dive back into it again, but after rereading it, I feel like I'm just kind of done with it. There's nothing more that I can pull from this story. that would make it worthwhile reading. Like Six of Crows, I will read that every single year, probably for the rest of my life, and I don't care because it is a super good book.
Yeah, there's always something. I feel like
there's always something more to pull
I am due for a reread of Six of Crows. Like I am due for a reread.
I just read it like 3 months ago.
Not Six of Crows, Cricket Kingdom.
Oh.
I haven't read Six of Crows since 2021.
Like the books that I will reread over and over again are Six Crimson Cranes. I will reread Bridge Kingdom, and I will reread Six of Crows.
It is Six of Crows, The Selection, and the Threshold series for me.
Oh, the Selection series.
See, I feel like I love the Selection series, but it's not one of my go-to rereads.
Well, it's also just not one of, like, we all have our very specific genres, and you're very into the
fantasy.
And I love...
That's very dystopian.
I love fantasy. I love fantasy.
Dystopian.
Fantasy is amazing, but sometimes it's just kind of like a little... I'm one of the people where it's just like, okay, I have so many different fantasy worlds in my head, I'm struggling to know what's real anymore. You know, it's like, I just need a break.
So... Thank you guys for listening to part 3 of The Cruel Prince, episode 3 of the Book Club Unhinged. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Book Club Unhinged. And you can listen to this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.
And do stay tuned. Oh God,
do stay tuned.
Do stay tuned for what our next read is, because we have a couple of options.
Yes, and if you have any suggestions as to what books that we should pick up,
drop them on our TikTok or Instagram.
Definitely drop them on our TikTok or Instagram. Something that we also discussed is we will be dropping a reading guide on our Instagram and possibly on our TikTok as well, if we can manage that. Updating you guys the week before we post an episode so that you have a chance to read along with us so that we are not spoiling stuff for you.
Yeah.
So,
we'll do better with our spoiler alerts this time.
Yeah, so we, at the beginning of the episode, we will tell you what book we're reading and through what chapters, and hopefully with that week in advance, you will have the chance to read along with us so that you can kind of, follow along with us as we read this, kind of like a reading book.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.